Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell and I am in a reading slump. So I thought, why not talk about some of the books that I think are great for getting out of a reading slump. Some of these I have used in the past to get out of reading slumps. Some of these I've read when I wasn't in a reading slump, but I actually think that they would be perfect for getting you out of a reading slump. I know a lot of people right now are in slumps. They're having trouble picking up books. A lot of people go through slumps this time of year. Number one, because still maybe some leftover burnout from the holidays. I think for some people it's kind of like the height of seasonal depression. I think for others too, there's this whole political climate situation that's going on that is terrifying for some. There's just a lot of slumping going on, guys. For me right now, I'm having such a hard time. So I'm going to talk about some of these reading slump recommendations, and then I might even talk about some books that while I was compiling this list, I was like, let's look some things up in these genres or ideas. And I actually downloaded some books on KU. So I have some books that I think I'm gonna actually pick up to help myself out a little bit. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, don't forget to do so. It really helps my channel grow. You can click the notification bell to be notified every time I post new videos. If you click the like button, that also really helps my channel with the algorithm. And also, please, I need your recommendations. Comment down below with your recommendations for books that will help anyone really get out of a reading slump. So I've got three genres or three kind of like ideas for getting out of a reading slump that are book related. Beyond obviously like letting yourself slump and just, you know what, we don't always have to be reading a book. That's obviously a thing too. Or just mood reading as an idea. So those are broad ideas, but I have three kind of like ideas of book genres or book subgenres, I guess I could say, that are really good for this, especially for me. And obviously this is my opinion, so these are gonna be things that for me, like, and I hope they work for you. Things that have worked for me that I hope will work for you. So, number one, and probably my number one go-to if I've been slumping for too long, because my first response, honestly, if I'm slumping for too long, is just to let myself slump, because that's okay sometimes. We don't always have to be reading a book. But if it's been for too long, like right now, I've read 2.5 books in February. No, not even. I read one book, and then I'm 50% of the way into 2 different books, so. Not even. I finished one book in February. Let's just put that out there. It's been too long. I've been slumping for too long. So we're gonna go like hardcore mode. And my first thing I go to when I'm ready to get out of a reading slump is extreme smut. I go for books that are straight up weird smut. And not necessarily like the comedy section. Like I know there's also like a subgenre of weird erotic smut that is like a comedy thing, like Bagged by the Groceries or like something like that. Like there are a bunch of weird ones like in that vein, but I actually mean more like straight up erotica. And maybe it's weird because it's like tentacles, or maybe it's weird because it's like a giant, like a lot of monster and alien kind of stuff. But just very, very straight up erotica that's like short, to the point, fast paced, just one sitting type of books. That maybe they will take me multiple sittings because that's how bad it is, but it kind of gets me really like going because they're short, they're fast paced, and I can get that dopamine from finishing it and moving on to the next book, if that makes sense. So that's very helpful. These like novella type of books too, especially like these are not long like books. These are like novelettes, short stories, novellas, that kind of thing. And in that vein, my first recommendation would be Sentenced to the Tentacle Chair. This is less than 30 pages, I believe. And this is like a dystopian science fiction erotica short that takes place at this space station where this woman is punished and she chooses to have to sit in this tentacle chair for 24 hours. And it is video broadcasted. And the tentacles obviously do things to her the whole time. It's straight up erotica and it's also really crazy, but I think that that one is really good for kind of like getting you going again, like finishing a short story, and it's just zero mind use, okay? So in this kind of genre of weird extreme erotica, I want to suggest a few different books. One time, I will pop up this on the screen. One of the last times I got into a reading slump was in August of 2024. Sorry, I'm looking at my thing right here. So it was in August of 2024. I hadn't read a book in 2 weeks. And then you see I read Hollow by Sam Nascosta, immediately read Monster Mansion by Melody Rose, and read Taming Their Maiden by Denny Lane. These were all 3-star books. They were not groundbreaking in any way. Now, these were all full length though. Like, these are not novellas, but they're all very erotic. Like, they are very spicy. They are erotic romance where the erotic aspect is what's like pushing the plot line. There's not this like external plot line, if that makes sense. And they are also all monster-esque. So Hollow is very like paranormal. And then Monster Mansion is obviously monsters. Taming Their Maiden is, I don't know how I would describe it. It's fantasy, but it's not like super high fantasy. And the heroes become almost like berserkers, like their down there situation becomes quite large, like not normal large. And I don't know how to describe this. Oh my gosh. And that one specifically, I will say Taming Their Maiden, that is like fully not, there's non-con, dub-con, CNC, slave master, white shoes relationship, okay? Monster Mansion is a white shoes too. Like, I find these really, really, really spicy white shoes erotic romances are really great for getting me out of a reading slump. So, sorry right now I'm like all over there. I'm not giving like full synopses. Like, I'm really just talking about getting out of a slump, if that makes sense. And then Hollow has 2 stories in it. It is a MMM short story, and then it is a Sleepy Hollow retelling that's more like a full length, like a shorter full length, but full length novel book. So I'm trying to like section these off. I would say another one that kind of fits this kind of mold is Hold. This is not White Shoes, but this is a shorter sci-fi dystopian erotic romance. And this is about a woman who is put into this prison planet, for basically, she's an archaeologist and she was like doing a dig in a spot she wasn't supposed to be in, apparently. And so she gets put in this prison and she has to find the biggest guy there to protect her, because at this prison, like, it's not like our prisons. And people just do whatever to each other, and she has to find protection. So she has someone to make sure she's like fed and like no one's gonna mess with her. Like, he'll protect her from all the other people there. And so that's what she does. And in exchange, obviously there's an exchange, if you catch my drift. So that one also super spicy. And then I'm going to talk about some fast-paced romances that I think are just really great for slumps. These are, I think, most of these are contemporary. The first one is The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. This is the second book in the Nashville Neighborhood series. This is a age gap where the woman is the older person and then the younger one is the guy. And now he ends up being her pool boy. He is the son of her best friend, and she's like recently divorced, and she is a like talent scout kind of manager for the music community in Nashville. And then he is actually an aspiring musician, but he is not telling his mom that. And anyway, the two of them end up really hitting it off. He's had a thing for her forever. It's actually a really good romance. Like, I would not call this an erotic romance. This was a romance. It was very spicy though. It was quite spicy, but it was still of romance. And also I really loved the romance aspect in this and their relationship, the conflicts and everything like that. I just really enjoyed this book. I give it 5 stars. I actually liked it more than The Doctor, which was the first book in this series, which was also an age gap, but the guy was older. But I really liked this, and I was really surprised because usually I don't like what I guess some people call them like reverse age gaps, but like I usually don't like the age gap where the woman's older, but I don't know, maybe now that I'm getting older I do. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know, my lighting is like an issue today. Sorry if it's like kind of blue. I don't know if it kind of looks kind of blue. I hope that's okay, but I'm trying to move it this way because yeah, the lighting's being kind of weird right now. Okay, anyway, so I really enjoyed that one. And then another shorter contemporary fast-paced one, but this is like more mafia, is The Beast by Katie Robert. I've actually recommended this whole series before as perfect for getting out of a reading slump. The books are short. They're more close to novella range. Some of them are over novellas, but they're shorter books and they are mafia romance. And these I would definitely call erotic romance, where like the erotic aspects, the smut that's like driving the plot and their relationship. I really, really liked this one though. The Beast specifically is my most recent book that I've read in this series. I have 2 more that I need to read. So those are definitely like on my radar for books I might pick up during this slump. But The Beast is actually an MMF romance, and all the books in this series are Disney retellings, but with the villains. Okay, so the first book in the series followed Jafar and Jasmine. The second book was Hades, Persephone, and Hercules. No, that's wrong. The second book was Hades, Megara, and Hercules. And the third book was Tink and Huck. And the fourth book, this one, was Gaston, Beast, and Belle. So I'm excited to pick up the next 2. I think the one is Eric, Ariel, and Ursula. And then I think the final book in this story is Sleeping Beauty, and that one's sapphic. It's is it Maleficent? Yeah, Maleficent and Aurora? Is it Aurora? I think that's the princess from Sleeping Beauty. So anyway, I'm excited for both of those. In this same vein of like mafia, darker mafia, fast-paced contemporary romances, I will say Shanora Williams, or I guess for this one it's S. Williams, Passion and Venom. This is a trilogy and it is a cartel romance. I would highly recommend this one for getting out of a reading slump because it is so fast-paced. Now, make sure that you do check the trigger warnings for this one because holy moly, this is one of the darkest romances I've read, especially the scenes. There are some just extremely dark, hard to read scenes, okay? But I will say this is very fast-paced. It's really fun. The plot is like, keeps you going. It is just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And then also Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geisinger. This is mafia with the Russian mafia, and this one is so hot, but also it's just so fun and fast-paced, and also the pining between the characters is so freaking good. In this one, a woman, like her husband has been missing for a very long time, and a man shows up one day in the town. He moves in next door, and he's this really big like dude. The two end up kind of like talking at the bar one night towards like the beginning of the book, and things kind of go from there. I don't want to say too much. It's really good. It's so freaking good. And I read the second book in that series. That's good. So I do want to read the third book in that series. Finally, for romances, I do want to talk about Psycho Shifters. This is another Why Choose fast-paced fantasy romance. Now this one though is not spicy, but I do think that this would be really good for people in reading slumps because it is so fast-paced and fun. That's really what you need, at least what I need when I'm trying to get rid of something during a reading slump. So I don't know if this is like the first book to go to, but like maybe once you've kind of gotten over your hump and read one book, maybe pick up this one because it is fun, flirty, fast-paced time. It's a Why Choose. It's a shifter realm. And our heroine finds out that she's an alpha shifter. She gets sent to the front in this war versus alpha versus fae, and she meets these 3 other alphas who kind of bully her. So it is a bully romance. Make sure you check the triggers for that one too. Check the triggers for all of these, honestly. That one I think would be really good. I did not read that when I was in a slump, but I also do think it would be good for a slump. Let's talk about some kind of like fast-paced thrillers, okay? Because sometimes that can be the way to go. Usually for me it's romance, but it's been thrillers in the past before too. Number 1, we want them to be fast-paced. We kind of want them to be batshit. We want them to be kind of crazy. So The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. I think this book would be perfect for a reading slump. I was feeling a bit slumpy when I did read this, and I gave it 5 stars. It was the first book I read this year, I believe, or maybe no. Was it the second or third book that I read this year? It was one of the first books that I read this year. And I give it 5 stars, and I really, really like this. This is about this author. She lives in New York City. She's obsessed with this other author who is throwing this writing retreat. She does it every year, and she just wants to be invited to it because she thinks it will really be good for her career. She ends up getting invited to it and going, but at this writing retreat is going to be someone else who she is no longer speaking to. She has bad blood between them. and things get quite crazy at their writing retreat. That's all I will say. It's wintry. It's set at this like remote house, like not a cabin, but it's like a remote kind of mansion in a snowy kind of setting. And it was crazy. It was crazy. And then for a mystery, I will say, I think this series specifically would be really good for a reading slump where you just can't pay attention very well, but maybe you're not someone who likes to read super smutty books. But this is like fun, flirty, fast-paced, and you don't have to pay too much attention, even though it is a mystery. And that is The Vampire Knitting Club. This is a cozy paranormal mystery series set in England, and this girl goes to check up on her grandmother, visit her grandmother, and she finds out her grandmother has been turned into a vampire. There's all these vampires that live like below the knitting shop, and they actually have like a knitting club because I guess I should say first, her grandmother owned a knitting shop. So now she's got to try to run this knitting shop and hang out with these vampires and also kind of solve who actually unalived her grandmother. It's really, really good. There is a love triangle in this series that I really enjoy. I think this is a great series for a reading slump. It's super cozy, super fast-paced, super fun, just a really good time, a hint of romance in there too, like I said, with that love triangle, and honestly, I think this is great for getting someone out of a reading slump. So with all of that said, I know I had another thriller on here, but I don't know where it went. I had another thriller though. I can't remember what it was, but that's okay. You get the gist. Fun, fast-paced, super crazy thrillers. Based on this, I've actually picked out a few books that I might pick up in between books that I'm reading from my TBR for March, because I did release my March TBR. I will have that linked up here too. But in between those books, so that I can kind of make sure I'm keeping my pace going, I've got some short books that I think will help me stay focused. One is Milked by My Dad's Minotaur Friend. We have a dad's friend. We have a weird kink that I've never read before. And we have a minotaur, and I love minotaurs. This is like 65 pages, and I think it's going to be very spicy. It's just straight erotica. And I'm pumped for this one. It sounds like it's going to be kind of Sam Nascosta-y maybe, like I'm hoping at least in vibes, but also even spicier. Like I said, I've never read this kink before, the milking thing, but we'll see how it goes. And that one is by Jade Swallow. And then the next one I have is Alina Dawn. It's called Heavy Petting. It's an edgy monster romance. This one is not a short story, but I think it is a novella. I just think it's like under 200 pages. And I think this says he was the answer to her prayers. She was his from the moment he saw her, his pet that is. Never mind those forbidden feelings that take their relationship to a wild and wonderful taboo new places. It says, this book is for anyone who has ever longed for a large, hot monster hero to slay their enemies, free them from life's cage, take care of their every need, and make them, you know what, in more ways than thought possible. So this has a very long list of kinks, and I'm just curious about it. So I also thought the cover was cute. And then I did actually get the second book in the Taming Their Maiden series. That was that barbarian master slave why choose book, and this one is called Conquering Their Maiden. That's by Demi Lane. So I did pick that one up too, and that is like 260 pages. So I have those, and I think those are going to be some good options. I also have Eva O'Hare. It's called The Barbarian's Treasure. She just came out with this, and the cover alone is stunning, but I think we have a huge size difference and a barbarian, which is everything to me. It also looks like a tropical location, which is kind of exciting. It says a group of friends get together for a once-in-a-lifetime vacation on a chartered cruise, only to find themselves lost at sea. At least, so they think. They come upon an island full of mystery, wonder, and love. So I'm very curious about that. That looks really good. So those are some of the books that I think are going to be really good to read in between my books that I'm going to be reading from my March TBR, which is a short TBR. I have like just a few books on there, but I think this is going to keep me going. So I think this was great to kind of go through what has worked for me in the past for reading slumps, and then we're going to try to recreate that and see how it goes. So I hope you guys like this video. I hope this is helpful if you are in a reading slump. If you have any recommendations for books that are perfect for getting people out of reading slumps, drop those down in the comments, along with any of your recommendations for other things that might help get people out of reading slumps. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. All of my links are down below in the description, including my Patreon, my Goodreads, my Instagram, all that good stuff. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.